I've been looking for a really nice GBA handheld device, dedicated one really. And from the last video you guys saw, the SP that I did from Ambernick, that one was pretty good. However, that one has a different aspect ratio. It's a 4:3 aspect ratio, 640 by 480p display. It's a 3.5 inch still, but look at this. This is from PowKiddy. This is their V10 that just came out recently. And this model is also 3.5 inch, but notice that the screen is a little bit different, right? It's a 3:2 aspect ratio, 320p, so a little bit less resolution, but nonetheless, you get perfect aspect ratio for Game Boy Advance games. And I'm here to talk about it, and so let's go ahead and get started. So before we get started, please consider subscribing. It really does help me a lot. I'm trying to grow this channel to be, you know, a tech channel, travel channel, blog channel, that kind of thing. And I hope you guys would enjoy this content. So this device, this V10 device from Ambernick, it's quite nice. I really like it. When I first got it, I've been using this for about 2 weeks at this point. And yeah, I mean, I got this in this gray, you know, US bit 16-bit color. I really like it, the gray scale and then the purple colors. It's really nostalgic for me, even though I'd never really played the SNES, but I just like the color scheme. I will say that on the pictures online, you'll see that the color scheme is a little bit cooler for the gray, but this one is a little bit on a warmer tone. Hopefully the camera can pick it up, that it's a little bit warmer on this. I do quite like that the display is wider. It has a wider aspect ratio, so then you're able to kind of get this nice look of like, okay, it's a wider base, so you can hold it. It's quite easy to hold, especially compared to other 3.5 inch handheld devices like the Ambernick or the Mio Minis Plus of the worlds. And also another thing I really like about this device that the other device didn't have was that the speakers in the middle. The Mio Mini, for example, is on the right side, and same with the Ambernick devices, they're not quite placed that well. And I think that this device has that best placement for the best sound, especially if you're using the speaker here. And even though the display is a little bit smaller in terms of resolution, I didn't really have any problems with it performance-wise. I can't really tell pixel peeping, I guess, I don't know. But for these kind of retro games, that's kind of what you're looking for really, that nice kind of like pixel perfect integer scale, well, you know. So even though this display is a 320p display, it still looks quite nice. I didn't really notice any issues, especially for an older platform like a GBA. I mean, however, I will say maybe for other platforms, this device really isn't it, just because the aspect ratio is a 3:2. So, you know, it's not gonna be the best. You're gonna get a lot of black borders and stuff like that. So let's give a quick tour of the device. At the front, you have the, you know, D-pad, you have your 4X, Y, A, B buttons, and the speakers in the middle. And then you have your start and select, and then on the top here you got the minus and plus. I never really figured out what the plus is for, because I also had flashed custom firmware, so the Rocknix firmware, I flashed it on here. It's using the RGB10 model because that's the same chipset, so I was able to just flash it and get it working there. But the minus is used for arc shortcut, so you can do, you know, the minus and then select to exit the game or start to exit the game. Same with the brightness and volume selection. You're going to have to use shortcuts to figure that out, because on this device, unfortunately, there is no volume rocker. Not on the side, not on the top where all the ports are and stuff like that. You know, you have your reset and your power here, charging and OTG connection for both USB. On the back, you do have your triggers, your R1, L1, R2, L2. And then this battery cover is removable, and you'll see that it has a 3000 milliamp battery here. You can see that there's quite a bit of a gap here. So maybe they could have fit more of a battery in here, but they, you know, chose not to. But you can just put your own in there, as long as it has the same connector. And on the bottom, lastly, you have your 3.5mm headphone jack and your SD card slot for your OS and stuff. So you're gonna put your OS and your games all in the same card. So that does kind of suck, but for everything you see here is $40 shipped. So no shipping costs, at least to me in the US. And you get to play GBA games on the go. I mean, the battery is pretty good. I didn't measure the battery life, but it's, so you what, maybe 3-4 hours if you on a full charge. So yeah, performance is pretty good. It's basically on par with the RGB10, just because of the same chipset and whatnot. Like I said, I've only been playing GBA games on here. I only have GBA games loaded on this card. It's my dedicated GBA game here, or device. I should say, right? And when I've been playing GBA games, I don't really use the triggers that often, but I will say that these are probably one of the best triggers I've ever used on a vertical handheld. They have short travel, so they don't really go that far, but they're clicky, and I do like that they're clicky. It's not a huge deal. I know some people don't like that they're clicky. One of the other things I would mention is that the start and select are clicky as well, so you do want to just keep that in mind. However, the control pad, or D-pad, and the face buttons are not clicky. They're basically memory buttons, which I do like for, you know, kind of that old classic feel. And yeah, so some of you guys might be wondering, okay, well, why should I get this over the Anbernic SP I just reviewed? I mean, this device has perfect integer scaling. If you really want that perfect 3x2 scale, it's double the scale of the original GBA pixel dimension. So, I mean, that's a pretty big bonus. So it's a wider base, right, compared to the SP. So you're able to get a nice kind of like feel to it. I may do a comparison video with the SP. So let me know down in the comments below. Give me a like and all that stuff. So, you know, it helps me know, you know, that you guys want to see that kind of video. Now, so it can play GBA games, no problem. All that is great. So what are some of the things I noticed? Well, the first one is there's no Wi-Fi. And I already talked about the volume rocker. There's none of that on here. I would say of the two, at first I was more bummed with the lack of the volume button, but I think I missed the Wi-Fi a lot more than the volume, because without Wi-Fi, it was such a pain to install custom Linux firmware on my SD card and flash it on there. And I can't imagine people with less experience trying to do that and have a good time. So with all that said, who is this device for? Well, if I'm trying to recommend one device to beat them all, this is definitely not it, I would say, just because, yes, you can play other games on it, but the fact that this 3x2 aspect ratio is there, it makes it hard to play other games, and also the resolution's a little bit less, right, compared to other 3.5-inch screens. So because of that, you're losing out on a lot of features for other platforms. So things like the Anbernic horizontal model with the joysticks, or the SP, right? So you're missing a lot of those things, but if you want a cheap, and if you're okay with dealing with some of the issues that I mentioned with the Wi-Fi and the volume rocker, then I think this is the best device that you can get for under 50 bucks. It plays GBA games perfectly. You can play even Game Boy and Game Boy Color fine too. Again, just the aspect ratio, right? You're gonna have to kind of like deal with the fact that, yeah, it's a 3x2 and has a little bit less resolution. But I mean, I don't think it's a big deal, especially if this is like your single GBA device and you're gonna just play on here and then you're not really gonna play anywhere else. But for me, it's a little bit hard because I do own other devices, so I would have to transfer those game saves somehow, and it's already a pain to transfer the games onto the SD card. Yeah, so, but with that being said, I still recommend this device just because how cheap it is and how well it plays. And then I mentioned that the plastic is great on this PowKiddy device. I've used other PowKiddy devices before, namely I forget the square model, namely the one with the 1:1 aspect ratio. That one, the plastic was terrible and was 3 times more expensive than this one for some reason. And this one is 40 bucks and it plays so well. The plastic is good, the buttons are good, the screen is good, everything is good except for those 2 things. So PowKiddy, if you're watching this, make another model with just Wi-Fi and volume rockers, and yeah, it can be more expensive, but you know, I'll pay more for those features. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, please consider subscribing if you guys want to see more content like this, and I will see you guys very soon. Peace.